Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Revere City Council Public Works Subcommittee. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For those of you who have cell phones, please shut them off or put them on vibrate. Even me. Okay. We have 5 items on our agenda, and I think, we've spoken about most of them already. And the first one is motion by Councilor Patch, 18-092, that the mayor request the appropriate agency of the Commonwealth of Mass to clean the culvert that runs along Astor Ave. This is state property and has never been properly maintained. Further, residents of Green Tree Lane and Caruso Court dump yard waste in the culvert, adding to the amount of debris in the culvert. Since the culvert has never been maintained, the neighborhood floods with each heavy rain. The next item is 18-149 is a motion by Councilor Rizzo, Patch, and Janino relating to Astor Ave also, and I'm going to combine those two. That the city clerk convene an on-site visit to the culvert on Astor Ave with a representative from MassDOT, representative from DCR, Representative Vincent, DPW Superintendent, and the Public Works Subcommittee. Just to bring that one up first, 149, we put together, I think, 5 dates for folks to let us know which one they wanted, and I only heard from one person, and that was Representative Vincent, of which of those 5 dates you can make. We never heard from anybody else. So it wasn't worth having a meeting just with Representative Vincent alone. So we never finalized any dates. So that's where that motion went. And 18-092, Councilor Patch, we have discussed this several times. I did speak to the highway supervisor, the district supervisor from maintenance, and he told me, right after the meeting, he went down and sent a crew down there, cleaned along the edge of the culvert, and I think the superintendent, do you have any input as to what's been going on down there?
Well, as you stated, that's all state property and they're responsible for it. We do what we can. We have responded there during heavy rainstorms over the last month or so, making sure the water stays flowing. So that's happened. We do what we can there. We did send somebody down to clean the, I guess it's the paper street, Toscano Avenue, to have that grass cut. Other than that, we're just waiting for the state to respond and see what they can do for us down there.
What kind of response are we waiting for from them?
Well, I was hoping we could convene a meeting down there, and
Yeah.
I know I was looking forward to, having an on-site meeting, and that hasn't happened, so.
Right, and I explained why. So I can't have a meeting when only one person
Right. I understand
responds.
that. We will continue to respond during heavy rain events, to make sure that the streets don't flood and what have you, but beyond that, I think it has to be mainly a state-driven cleanup and response there.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, while I got you here, I'm going to be putting a late motion in that the Department of Public Works looks into the feasibility of installing a new sidewalk and retaining wall located at 55 Toscano Avenue due to the severe flooding conditions. I know if you would look into it, that
55, okay, so the retaining wall was washed out.
it's damaged.
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
and I believe Councilor Rizzo made me aware of that also. So, yes, we will go down there and see what we can do for the resident and repair the sidewalk.
I mean, he's here too if you want to talk to him. He's
Okay? Sure.
Okay.
I will certainly have a
Thank you,
discussion
Paul.
with him. Okay?
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And as everybody knows, and as the superintendent just indicated, I mean, we're grateful to the city for helping the neighborhood down there. Mr. Falzone, who has been, you know, a one-man band and trying to prevent flooding in his neighborhood. You know, he comes up here, but I think those of us that are familiar with the area, and, you know, I know certainly you are, Paul, and others here, obviously the ward councilor, Charlie Patch, is very familiar with the disastrous conditions that can be promulgated by heavy rainstorms. And he does his best down there to try to keep it clean. Our city, with limited manpower, tries to maintain the entire city. So it does fall on our state agencies, and I'm a little disappointed, more than a little disappointed, that you've only got one response in the request to meet with the residents down there to address their concerns, because I don't think they're concerns that are out of the ordinary. I don't think that it's anything that anybody else here, if they lived in an area that was prone to flooding and it can be prevented, wouldn't want to see happen. So I think it's important that we really maybe it's through our state delegation to connect with these state agencies. I'm not really sure. I don't know if anybody is. Is it DCR? Is it DOT? Is it a combination of both of those agencies? But I think it's important that we get some cooperation from them, because this motion was submitted a while ago. I mean, no one likes to drag things along and drag them along. I'd like to go down and meet with the neighbors down there and see if the state is going to step in and you know, take charge of an area that really needs it. So I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Just, you know, on my end of it, from what I understand, when I talk to MassDOT, they go down and clean what they can. They don't do dredging down there because there's an issue with dredging creeks because of the way they have to destroy the earth that's in there. They can't dig it out and pull it to they can't side it. And so they have to take care of it. It's very expensive because now it's a hazmat issue. So they go down, they just clean out what they can as far as debris, but they don't do any dredging per se. So I don't know how much more we can do.
Well, if I may, we're in subcommittee, Mr. Chairman, with a little latitude. I don't know dredging needs to be done, but I think just pulling the washing machines and refrigerators and whatever else may be in there, they could certainly take care of. And again, you know, there are tree branches and things like that that we can see at the trash gates that accumulate down there. So we're not going to ask them to necessarily dredge, but they can pull out pieces that are, you know, sizable. So we're just looking for a meeting with them right now. We're not even asking them to do anything other than to be responsive to our neighbors down there. And our constituents, you know, they work at a state level with our state delegation, but we're the ones that deal with the residents every day, so we need their cooperation on this, just to come down and meet. We can do a nice walkthrough with the neighbors, and then let them tell us. If they say, hey, look, sorry about that, people are allowed to throw their washing machines and ovens and refrigerators down into here, okay, at least we'll know that. Then we'll be okay with that. But if they say, geez, we need to do something about this, then I think that we can get somewhere and get their cooperation to work with everybody down there. Because one thing, let me just say this, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Falzone, I believe, does not want to be here every week. He truly doesn't. He's just trying to solve a problem, and he's fearful that the problem could get worse if we don't step it up. So I don't think he's looking to create any issues here with the city council. He's just being a resident that's worried about his home, his investment, and all those of his neighbors down there. So that's all I have to say about that right now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Oh, what's everybody's will in this? You know, I don't know what more we can do. We can be calling the state rep and ask her to make sure she
Yes.
contacts.
Yes.
You know, maybe.
if I could, through the chair, I mean, maybe, Madam Clerk, if you could contact Senator Boncory and Representative Vincent, and just ask them to coordinate a meeting with DOT, and would it be DCR, Paul? So with representatives from DCR and DOT to do a walkthrough, if you could ask for their assistance in this, because, you know, obviously the chair has attempted to do it, and with no success so far, so.
You know, we can try once more, but we can't make them. You know, we're at their mercy, basically, you know, and I know, like I said, you know, Paul goes in with his guys to try and clean out the rack whenever they can. I don't know if I haven't been down there, so I don't know if there's really washing machines and everything down there now. But there may have been in the past, but you know, I don't go in that area normally, but we can make one more try, and after that, to me, you know, I think he should just be dealing with Representative Vincent on it, and instead of coming in here all the time and having us talk about it and nothing happens. So, Charlie.
Thanks for letting me speak again, Mr. Chairman. It's so frustrating. I just spoke to Mr. Falzone before the meeting. He says, "What, you know, what can we do?" I says, "Well, we can't kidnap them and bring them down there." I says, "Unfortunately, it's frustrating. If they, I don't know what to do. I don't have no answer here. But it's good if we follow up and try to give them one more chance, and hopefully they'll work with us this time. Thank you."
What I would like to do is see if we can combine the two motions into one instead of carrying two motions over. And I don't know if, one thing I think with the debris being tossed over the fence or up against it, maybe we can get some signs up. I don't know, is that something we can put on their fence? No dumping? Yeah, so, you know, maybe we can get some no dumping signs on, you know, on the fence in the area of the trash rack, so, if that's where it's happening, I'm not sure. So, okay. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in Beachmont, we had a dumping problem, as you know, Paul, and I called the Revere Police. They put a camera up, and we put a sign up that said, you know, "You're on surveillance camera, please take notice." And since then, we have not had 1 ounce of dumping there. So maybe that is a solution for that area. If people are dumping over the fence, you know, warn the people, maybe if you can put a camera up, if they know they're on television, maybe they won't dump anymore. Thank you.
Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we shouldn't just, I think we should be a little more optimistic, and let's not just say we're going to try once more. Let's try once more. You know what? We're going to go forward with this. If they don't respond, we'll send a letter on behalf of the City Council to Charlie Baker, let him know that his department heads are not paying attention and not being responsive to the Revere City Council. And I think the governor would agree that we deserve some respect, some response whatsoever. So I think going forward, we should look at a resolution or a letter to Governor Baker if we don't get a response afterwards.
Councilor, I wouldn't even object to him getting a copy of the letter that we send, you know, to our delegation. So, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's a great point on behalf of my colleague, Councilor Morabito. And if you'd like to put, you know, something from the City Council as a whole, from me as well as from you as the chairman, I'd be happy to co-sponsor anything you'd like, and we can send that letter to Senator Boncory, Representatives Vincent and DeLeo, and perhaps copy the governor and just say that, you know, these are the agencies we reached out to. We want to thank our local delegation for the response we received from, you know, Representative Vincent. However, we need more help, and she needs more help. It's not fair that she's the only one answering us, but we do appreciate that help. Thank you.
Okay, so we can go ahead with that letter and move it forward. Okay? Okay, with that, so that'll remain in committee. And the next item was 18166, which was communication from James DiPaolo at 849 Revere Beach Parkway, requesting time to discuss the rat problem near his home. He was here that night. He did discuss it, let us know what was going on. The mayor has already done some items to try and relieve the city by allowing the city to pay for the first baiting of someone's property. And that's usually the biggest cost in the baiting program. So, and then also the mayor, I believe, is going to be buying new barrels for everybody. Paul, can discuss that?
Well, we just ended a program. We hired 4 exterminating companies at a cost of $40,000. We generated the areas that we concentrated on through the calls that came to ISD and 311. So we targeted 4 areas, got 4 separate exterminating companies. They went basically house to house, putting flyers on people's doors, saying that we had a program. They went to the found burrows, put dry ice down the burrows, and really an intensive program, house by house, rather than just one spot here, one spot there. That program has since ended. We do have $150,000 in the DPW, 100 on the water sewer side, 50 on the general side to combat the rodent program, which we are going to continue in a couple of weeks. Go through these 4 exterminators that we hired, see which ones we feel like were the best, expand that program to other areas of the city. And then we have meetings over the next couple of weeks. We will be purchasing 65-gallon toters for every home owner in the city, free of charge. That way, all refuse from the house will have to go into this one toter with a lid on it, similar to the recycling bin. If a homeowner feels as though they can't concentrate their trash into one bin, there will be a program that they could purchase a second bin for themselves. So within the next few months, hopefully by maybe the end of the fall, every homeowner will have a bin that's covered, similar to the recycling, because everyone feels as though the biggest problem with rats is the exposed trash.
A couple questions before I let Council Morabito. Now, that when he has started the program, they had a waiver that people were supposed to sign?
Yes.
Is that still open?
Well, we've since closed that program because the $40,000 has been spent, and we targeted those 4 areas, but we are going to expand it, and that will happen again. We can't go on somebody's property and do anything unless we have a waiver. I believe the 311 office said they got over 500 waivers, so people did call in and did participate, and we feel as though the program was successful.
Now, the totes, the barrels that they're going to be getting, we noticed, if anybody's been down on the first floor of City Hall, there's 3 size totes down there.
Yes, I believe they've decided on the middle size, the 65-gallon, which is the one that you have for recycling.
Now, are we still going to do recycling?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Okay, so we'll still use every other week
Yes, right.
recycling? Okay.
Right, so you'll have 2 closed bins, one for recycling every other week, 1 closed bin for trash disposal every week.
If somebody wanted to buy a second one, it would be a 64, 65?
That, we're still discussing that, whether they'll buy a 64. Then there's a smaller one that's 35-gallon, and the thing with that is that has a locking lid, so people may be interested in that. We may offer both of them. We may offer just one of them. We kind of haven't worked those details out yet.
Now, once everybody gets their barrels, now realize that every apartment in the city is going to get 1 barrel.
Right.
So if you have a 4-family house, you get 4 barrels. If you have a
That's correct.
2-family house, you get 2 barrels.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're going to generate that list through the assessor's office.
Now, some folks have 64s now, the gray
Right.
ones.
Right.
Will those still be able to be used?
No, we don't. We want another facet of this program, because the trash and recycling has really gotten out of hand and the cost of the city has exploded. We're going to try to limit people to those bins and try to limit the trash that people throw out, try to get people kind of accustomed to policing their own trash disposal, and we're going to try to limit the amount of trash that people throw out.
Council Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little sound effects. The chairman asked one of my questions about the multi-units, how many barrels they would
Yes.
get. What are the names of the 4 companies that we're using right now
For the rodent control,
for the rodent control?
B&B, Cat's Eye, Eco, and Weaver.
The reason I'm asking is, I was under the impression that the resident had to go to City Hall to sign a waiver, but I had a constituent call me a couple of weeks ago and said a company by the name of B&B knocked on her door.
Yes.
She was concerned because her mom was home, was there house sitting, and her mom signed some form.
Okay.
Thinking it was a waiver. So I just want to make it clear to those who are, the program's over, so they're not going to be asking for a waiver anymore.
Well, it's over for now, but
For now.
we hope to start it up again.
Will they be knocking on someone's door if that house is a problem house, or they
Well, if
feel
somebody
that-
calls and complains, we will go to that address. But then what we want to also do is go next door on either side, because rats just obviously aren't contained to one property.
So that
They're-
would be the reason why
Yes.
they knocked on it?
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Council Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Agenzio. I had a question in regards to, obviously the rodent issue, and clearly it's everywhere, and it's
Right.
not just in Revere, whether people want to say that or not. We all know that's not true.
Right.
We all have family and relatives that live across the state and in other states. But it's hard to not notice that in the last few years, or last 6 years, we've been doing extensive amounts of sewer relining. And my curiosity is does that come into play, or is that maybe exacerbated the issue where this massive sheathing is going through the lines, disrupting what's going on in the ground? And
Well-
if so, are we going to hold when we're planning the sewer relining, is there some sort of abatement or abating going on?
Well, that's part of the reason we put some money into the water sewer side to, when we do sewer work, to try to bait and come up with that. As far as relining a sewer line, I personally don't think that that's a big disruption of rats. They're in burrows in the ground. We don't feel as though relining the sewer lines is really doing that much disruption of rats or pushing them out into the community. But yes, we are going to address that when we do construction and sewer work, to see if we see the signs of it, we will then immediately stop and bait.
Thank you. And I know this is probably more in building and ISD department, but just also looking at the amount of construction going on in the city, there's obviously a lot of projects happening. Maybe we have to revisit the amount or the time of the baiting process.
Right.
Maybe it needs to be increased. Again,
Yes,
clearly
it
there's
is
an
a
issue.
Right,
you know?
it is a requirement now. Maybe we increase the amount
Yeah.
of baiting they have to do, or increase the area that they have to do, but it is a requirement now that they do that.
I understand, and
Okay.
like I said, I think that it's probably a good opportunity to revisit it and maybe expand, like you said, expand the area, and also potentially the timing of maybe it has to be
Right.
done more than once.
Right, the rodent problem just isn't a single issue. We have to hit it on all different levels, so that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Just for your edification, I have been in touch with CDM Smith, and they told me that whenever they go into the, into the sewer system, they have been baiting at where the manholes are. They bait the edge, around the edge, so, and they keep track and see what's going on there. So they are, emphasizing that, especially now that we've been more aware of things happening and that what's been going on in the system. That's number one, and I have been speaking to some of the members of site plan review and also some of the developers. Now they're required to bait 2 weeks before they do a demo. And I've requested that they increase that to 4 weeks and also expand the area, like within 100 yards or a little more, whatever
Yes.
it is, even if it means going into another street.
Right,
you know,
that's
to do
correct.
some people's houses, and of course, they would have to sign the waiver and, in order to get it, because we did that down on Standish Road, so it worked when we were doing the Shaw's site, so, you know, just, so that's your edification. So what I would think is, on this communication from Mr. DiPaolo, that we place that on file, because we've done that, so, any opposition to that? So we'll do that, we'll place that on file. The next item was a motion by Council Rotundo about locating in the new DPW facility, engineering, inspectional services, fire prevention, and a clerk's desk to ensure and improve streamlining of permits and maintaining of records. Thoughts on it, Mr. Superintendent?
Well, obviously, that would be an administrative decision that wouldn't rest with DPW. We did meet with Weston and Sampson today to start going over the plans for the building and getting this on the fast track. ISD, fire prevention, engineering, there are a lot of employees. So the footprint of the building really doesn't lend itself to that, unless you wanted to put a third floor, which I know there's a lot of concern about the cost of the building. And I think, you know, that might be discouraging as far as how much money that would add to the building. So in theory, you know, it's a good idea. But like I say, the footprint of the building and the cost of the building, which is already a cause for concern, I think.
You know, the only ones I had thought about at the beginning was at least engineering. You know, because they deal with you guys, you know, not necessarily all of inspectional services.
Right.
To me, I wouldn't put fire prevention down there anyways. I'd leave them over at 400 Broadway, but what's the feeling on the committee on what to do with this? Do they want to keep it here? Do they want to place it on, send it out, place it on file? Any thoughts? Yes, no? We'll place it on file and don't leave it up to me, please. You know, I'm just saying, you know, if we're not going to do anything with it, we place it on file. You know, say we discussed it and he was, you know, Council
that
Rotundo
would be a good
wasn't here,
idea.
so we'll place it on, for motion, place it on file.
Thank you.
And the last item is an application for a awning at 363 Revere Street, Anvu. We have our applicant here. Push the button on the mic. There you go. There you go. And if you can give me your name and address for the record. Name and address.
The business name is American Dry Cleaner at 363 Revere Street.
That's American Dry Cleaners.
Yes, sir.
And your name is?
And in Anvil.
Anvil, okay. And yeah, I know you gave us some pictures. Any
I have some
questions
picture
on?
here if you need it.
Did they supply pictures with the? Yep, here it is. No, I got a separate packet here. Yeah, I got it here.
You got it?
So it is in our packet, American Dry Cleaning, and that's right on Revere Street. Fortunately, Council Granasso is not here, but any questions, any objections to anybody on approving this? You know, there's requirements, you have your, you have the liability bond that is here, and everything looks good. You know that you can't do it lower than 9 feet.
Yes.
Right.
Sir. Hi, sir.
Now, is it going to be lit underneath? Is the hood going to have
Sir,
lights on it?
No, no.
No lights underneath
No
it?
light underneath.
Okay. Any, Council, you know,
This will be
Madam
going to a
President?
public hearing?
We had the public hearing at the last meeting.
Understood. Is there any written communication from Councilor Granasso before we make any?
No, he didn't, you know, when he just said put it on committee until the
I would just like
applicant
a
showed
little
up.
bit of input from him before we pass it, even if it's just a quick,
So
you know, yes, I have
we'll ask him
concerns, or no, I
tonight.
don't, yeah.
Tentatively, there's no objections, you know, but what we're gonna do, if you stick around for tonight,
Sure.
for the
Yes,
meeting.
sir.
And Council Granasso is the ward counselor. He lives around the corner from the store.
Okay, sir.
So we want to hear from him tonight.
Okay.
And we'll basically, there's no objections here. I don't know if he has any thoughts or if he wants to put any requirements on it. Stick around tonight.
Yes, sir.
And we'll discuss it later on,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
Yes.
So with that, so that's the last item. Thank you for all your input, your patience, and we did good for time, and we'll see what happens at the council meeting. So with that, motion adjourned. So moved. Thank you all.